Hi there, I'm walking along Karam Beach, Phuket, Thailand, and it's quite nice and cool. It's coming up to sunset. So the purpose of this video is to talk about my experience teaching English in other countries, just to let you know what it was like, see if it's something you'd like to do. And at the end of this, I'll also give you some tips to make it easier for you if you do start teaching, then some things that I learned in my 6 years of doing it, and just to make it easier. So I worked in Japan and also in Taiwan. With Japan, I went there really just to earn money. It was the time where the English pound had collapsed and Japan was really strong, and you could earn a lot of money, but it was expensive to live in Japan. So my purpose was to just work there, earn money, and then spend the money traveling. I went there on my own. I didn't have a job or anything. I also didn't have a university degree, which made it a lot more difficult. And I think nowadays you do need a university degree. I tried to go back and I wasn't able to because I didn't have that degree. So because it's expensive, I really just wanted to work hard. I tended to work 13 days in 14 days. So I'd just have a day off every 2 weeks. And if I could do overtime, I would do it. The place I worked, I would just call it like a conveyor belt English school. It was 1 hour lessons. People would just come in, you have small cubicles, because this was the center of Tokyo and there's just no land there. There were small cubicles. You'd teach for 50 minutes and you get 10 minutes preparation for the next class. I don't think it was that good for the students, and it was really set. You had certain things you had to teach them. You couldn't go off and onto other topics, so not really a very friendly thing. And I actually found Tokyo so crowded. It was okay once I'd got a motorbike. Somebody left and they sold me their motorbike, and it was a lot better because you could get away from the main train stations. If you don't have a motorbike in Tokyo, then you're kind of stuck to the stations, and around there it's just so crowded. There's nowhere to relax. So I can't say as I enjoyed my time there. My apartment, I shared an apartment with another guy, and it was 6 tatami mats, which is like 6 sleeping bags. That was the size of it. So I don't actually recommend teaching in Tokyo. Maybe if you got outside Tokyo, it would be better. But it was still an experience. I'm glad I did it, but I haven't been back to Japan since then. It certainly was good. I did get out and do a couple of holidays, like I went skiing, but it was because one of the students took a group of us to his place that he had in a ski resort, and that was good. But I really, in general, didn't do anything except work. That was the time in Japan. And the other country, Taiwan, I worked about 18 months in Japan and then 4.5 years in Taiwan. And Taiwan was kind of the complete opposite, where I earned money, but I enjoyed it as well. It was a great community. I stayed about 6 months in a hostel, and it was a good atmosphere. We'd be out partying, drinking, and this was in Taipei, the center of Taipei. So you really could have a good time, lots of pubs, lots of bars, and it was just a group of us that got together. And after that, actually 3 of us, or at first there were 4 of us, we got an apartment together, like 4 guys, so that was a bit crazy as well. And then after that, 3 of us moved to another place. So I enjoyed the time there, and there was a difference. Whereas in Japan, I was teaching in a school, and I would just go to this one school. I would teach for 8 hours, or I would do overtime and teach longer than that. In Taiwan, there wasn't as much teaching that you could do, so it would be split. I would get a visa from a school, so I'd have to teach in a language school, and then I would do private work. You could pick up private work from people leaving. So people would stay there a year or a couple of years, and then as they left, they would give their private students out to other people. So you could pick up some private work, and you could also, you just hear about work, you gradually get to know people, and they'll say, oh, I know someone who wants English lessons. And sometimes it would therefore be in a school, which is a language school. I also taught in an actual school, which wasn't so good. There were like probably 50 students in the class, so you can't teach much, and a lot of them would just be messing about. Whereas in the language school, they wanted to learn. I'd also teach in some companies, and maybe the last 2 years I was really only teaching in companies, and that's a lot better because they really do want to learn. They're there to learn English, whereas I actually taught some kids at one time, and they don't really want to learn, they just want to play. So it was much better. Teaching business people is probably the best, then language school, and then in a normal school, and then lastly would be teaching kids. For me, that was the worst. So that's the difference there between Japan. It was really a conveyor belt school. In Taiwan, I enjoyed it, and I taught, especially towards the end, more businesses. Now, there is one problem with teaching, and I've just come to a bit of a river here I've got to cross, but I think it should be okay. Let's just check. Yeah. Okay, no problem. So the problem in Taiwan was that if you're teaching in a company, they only really get time in the morning before they work, at lunchtime, or in the evening after they work. And in Taiwan, that can sometimes mean they finish work at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, because sometimes they don't even finish till 8 o'clock at night working. So the hours really weren't that good. But having said that, what you could do, if you went there and you did that kind of thing, it would depend on different days. Sometimes I'd teach in the morning and lunchtime, then other times I might teach lunchtime and evening. So the money was quite good per hour, but then you didn't get so many hours. But then you could start your own thing, and I actually started working on internet around that time. This was around, I left in 1996, and I started working on internet about 95. So that was one good thing about it, that I could teach in the morning, then do some internet, then teach at lunchtime, and then work on internet in the afternoon. And that's just another idea for doing that. So what I said earlier was I'll give you a few tips. And my biggest tip was, with this teaching, it really is preparation that takes time. You've got to make sure you've got enough to teach the people, and make sure it's kind of at the right level. Now, some of the schools will say, yeah, you've got to teach this and this, but most of them don't. They'll let you get on with whatever you like to teach. So what I did, I would just prepare about 2 or 3 lessons every week, because I was teaching lots of different groups, and most of them it was just once a week. I could teach the same thing to all of those different groups. And the advantage there were twofold. The one is the preparation. I could just prepare it at the beginning of the week, maybe 2 or 3 lessons, and just teach everybody the same lesson. And the second thing is that I got better at it as I went through the week, because I'd find out some people got stuck on a certain part of grammar, or they'd be confused about something. So then I knew that for the next set of students, I knew what they would get stuck on, and I could just change it a bit as I went through the week. So that I didn't do that till probably halfway through my teaching, like maybe 2 years into it, when I realized I could just plan something and use it all week long. and it saved a lot of time. The second really important thing that I learned was it's all about communication gap. So you have to make it so that one person knows something and the other person needs to find it out. And that's really about life. That's why we talk. We talk so that one person's got something to say and the other person listens, and they're trying to teach them something or just let them know how they feel, that type of thing. And once you realize that's all that it's about, it just helps you prepare a lot better. You could give one a map and you could get the other person to work out how to get somewhere. Like, how do you get to the post office? And they have to keep asking the other person, how do you get there? And they'll have to explain, but they can't see the map. All this thing where you've got some information that's hidden from one, but the other person can see. Maybe start off with some quite structured stuff like that. Then where they make mistakes, I would write them down. So I'd listen to each of the people as they were talking, or each of the groups, write down their errors, and then I'd put up the errors on the blackboard and get them to correct the errors. I wouldn't tell them what they are. I'd quite often get a student to go up with a marker pen, and the other students would tell them what the errors were, and that person would correct it. So I keep out of it as much as possible. I do as little as possible, and that's the way I would do the corrections. So you've got the structured practice, you've got the errors, and then if there's some grammar that they're stuck on, I would go into drills. So I might be something like, I have a pen, he has a pen, and I would just say he, and one person would say he has a pen, she, another one would say she has a pen. Kind of boring, but it just imprints it in their mind, and this is kind of the third thing you do. So you go through some drills, and at the end I would get them to do some free practice around either the topic or around the grammar. If it was grammar, it might be past tense. They'll do some things about what they did last year, last week, last month, just so they're doing free practice, but it's around the grammar. Or it might be a topic about traveling, and then they would just have to talk to each other about traveling, and I would again go around listening to any errors. So that's my tips about teaching English. I will go into teaching English a lot more and some different ways of doing it later on in these videos, but it's just really to give you an idea. And finally is really the countries to go to. When I did it, which was, I first did it in 1991, and Japan was the best country and Taiwan was second best. But Taiwan hasn't really kept up with the other countries, so it's not the best country to go to. And what I heard from people, this was even 10 years back, that the people in Taiwan were moving to China. So you might want to check out China. I did have a quick look on the internet, and it said that South Korea is a good place to teach money-wise. Also the Middle East is a good place money-wise. And I meet people teaching English here in Thailand, so it can be done here. And again, I would say if you want to earn the money and get out, then maybe the Middle East and Korea. And if you want to have a nice lifestyle while you're teaching, then Thailand's a pretty good lifestyle. So that's an option. So I hope all that is pretty useful and kind of comprehensive, but that's mostly about what I did teaching English. And things change. You just do have to find out the best country at the time. But I wouldn't worry too much about, I went to these countries without a job. As long as you've got a bit of a backup of some money, then I did meet people that got the job before they came to the country, but most of us went to the country and got the job. So I'd still recommend doing that. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, please give this a thumbs up in YouTube. If you've got any questions about teaching English, then I'll try and help. Please leave them down below. So thanks a lot. It's almost sunset now, so I'm going to watch the sunset and I'll stop this video. So I'll see you in the next video. So thank you.